In this video, we're looking at our last problem for our homework, which is 717. And once again, we're using the same data that we used for problem 715 and 716, except now we're adding in a fixed interest expense of $60,000 on borrowed funds. So this is the fixed cost of our debt, which we're going to put in right down here in our table as 60, because once again these are dollar amounts in thousands. So we're going to add some columns here, because we also have, now we're going to look at our coefficient of a variation on our net income. So we need to add in our taxes. So according to our problem, we have a tax rate of 30%. So we need to factor that in. So what we're doing here is, the first thing we're doing is we're subtracting our interest expense from our operating income estimates here, and then we're looking at, and then that's going to give us our before tax income estimates here. And then we're going to compute taxes, which are going to be 30%. So if you see, so this is just, if you follow my cursor up, this sort of a pink column right here is just multiplying our before tax income by 30% in order to get our taxes, our tax amount. And then we're going to subtract that from our before tax income right here. You can see that I'm subtracting taxes from our before tax income, and that's going to give us our net income right here. So I've used the same sales and the same probabilities as I used in 715 and 716 right here. Let me just jump. Yeah, see it. So we can compare. So let's just jump back. So if we remember, our coefficient of a variation with just the fixed expense of 400 to 1,000 was 48.3%. But then when we add in our fixed interest expense, our net income becomes more volatile, and that's going to give us just a bit higher coefficient of a variation of 50.8%. Now the thing to understand here is that when we have a fixed expense on a debt, when we have a fixed interest expense, that is what we call financial risk, because we're financing a debt. So this is going to add not to our business risk, but to our financial risk, which is a measure of the coefficient of a variation of the net income compared to the coefficient of a variation on your operating income. So when we compare that, we can see, just bring up my calculator, we can see that with my figures here, we can see that the financial risk is, let me jump back, 50.8 minus what we had before, which was 48.3, so minus 48.3, and that's going to give us a financial risk of 2.5%, which was caused by this this added fixed cost, which is our interest expense, which, because of, and I explained this in problem 716, when you add fixed cost into your operating income estimates, it's going to have more of an effect on the lower figures than it does on the higher. A 60 is a much larger percentage of 400 than 60 is of 2,400. So that's why as a result of this fixed interest expense, your net income becomes a bit more volatile, which is going to add to your financial risk. Okay, make sure that you don't that you put all your figures in. So in 1,000. So if it says 60,000 up here, then this is going to go in as 60. So that's going to go in right here. So put the sales figures here, and your fixed expenses from problem 16, which was 400 or 1,000, but you put it in as 400. Put in your sales from the problem that we got back here. These sales 800, 1,000, 1,400, 2,000 on down, and put the same probabilities you had from the problem 715. Jump back over here, and then put in your 60 for your interest expense here, and that's going to give you your comparison. And remember, you want to subtract what you got in 716 right here, and you'll get that right down here from what you get for your coefficient of variation for your net income. And you want to subtract that. The difference between those two is going to be your financial risk, and you can explain that right here in this blue text box in the lower table that you're going to use for the problem, because it's asking you what are the expected value, the standard deviation, and the coefficient of variation of the net income, and what is the financial risk. So that's what you're going to be. The first ones are going to just pop in right here. But the last one, you're going to want to actually this financial risk. I would like you to explain that right here. How you actually figure out what the financial risk is. Okay, which is, once again, you want to look at the difference of your coefficient of variation of your net income with this fixed interest expense compared to the coefficient of variation right here without it. Okay, and that's going to be your financial risk. And that does it for your homework.